discussing Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace, Volume 2, which has 5 parts. If you are looking for a non-spoiler video, this is not the video for you. This video will be full of spoilers. If that's okay with you, then let's get started. This part I actually really enjoyed reading. It kind of felt just like a break from the war, and I really liked it. Actually, the men are on leave and they're back in Russia. We're kind of focused on a couple of themes here. It's mainly the meaning of happiness, and we're also focusing on love, marriage, and family. What I really like about this part is we're starting to get into some of the secondary characters that we've already heard of, but we're kind of diving and delving more deep into their family life and their life outside of the war. One of the characters that we are getting more involved with is this Dolokhov. Personally, at this moment, I am not liking this guy. He is just annoying. It begins with Pierre hearing some rumors that his wife is possibly having an affair with this Dolokhov character. He's already really upset because his marriage is not going as planned with Helena. With this news about his wife with Dolokhov, they're at this party and it's kind of just everything is bubbling up. And Dolokhov is pushing his buttons during this party, and Pierre just completely bursts at this moment and he threatens Dolokhov and says, I think we should have a duel. And so they end up having a duel, even though everyone believes that Pierre is going to lose. And it seems like it from the last second, because Pierre, right before he's about to start the duel, is asking people, like, how do I use a gun? In the end, he actually ends up shooting Dolokhov and wounding him, and Dolokhov is not able to shoot him back. You can say that he won the duel, although nobody died. We then start to see this side of Dolokhov when he's injured, that he's really upset because he knows that him being wounded and possibly may die would kill his mother, who wouldn't be able to emotionally handle it. And you get this side of Dolokhov that is just that he actually does care for people. Even though he did the complete opposite with Pierre, where he was taunting him and he knew that he was with his wife and he knew what he was doing. And we see it even later on that Dolokhov tends to do this with people, even his own friends, where he's just like pushing their buttons, and he likes to always act like he's on top. It's something that it seems that he needs to have, is he needs to always be able to prove to himself and to others that he has this upper hand in some way, shape, or form. However, you see with his mom that he has a side of him that is more loving. For me though, it was too little, too late. I really just don't like Dolokhov, and I don't care how much he loves his mama. I do not appreciate the way that he treated Pierre, and later on you'll see how he treats one of his friends. In the end, Pierre divorces Helena. And Helena, all of her colors just shine through at this moment. She is using really venomous words towards Pierre to hurt his feelings. And then when he says, I think we need to divorce, her response is, you want to divorce me? Only if you give me a ton of money. Man, she's just venomous, and vile, this woman. Then we end up moving over to Bald Hills, which is where Prince Andrei's father lives. He arrives right when his wife is in labor. Everyone thinks that he's dead because there's no news. They can't find any news about him. He wasn't in the list of those that died, and he wasn't in the list of those that became prisoners of war. So nobody really knew what happened. And then all of a sudden he just shows up after they were already preparing for his funeral. And he shows up while his wife is in labor. It's really sad because he has a son, but his wife dies in labor. We get past that and we move on to one of my favorite parts. You're following this trio, Dolokhov, Denisov, and Nikolai. We're spending a lot of time with Nikolai and his family, and it's takes place during Christmas time, and it's just full of happiness. Everyone's happy because they're back home. It's the holidays. Everyone is just falling in love with not even just each other, the atmosphere. And you just see it that every single person has completely bloomed open. It's quite funny to me. There are 2 proposals, and both of them get rejected. It starts with Dolokhov, our infamous Dolokhov here, who is just trying to get with all the women. He gets infatuated with Sonia, and he is very much infatuated with her to the point where he proposes. Sonia declines. She says, "No, sir, I'm in love with somebody else." Dolokhov is upset. He realizes who it is that she's in love with, but we'll get to that later. And then our second rejection is Denisov. He ends up proposing in a very informal, impromptu way to Natasha. He obviously gets rejected because Natasha is very young and he didn't really propose in the correct manner. He was supposed to propose to the parents first, but he didn't. He was just too caught up in the bliss of this holiday season of everyone just feeling great because it's like there was a pause on the war. We finish with Dolokhov and Nikolai kind of getting into it because Dolokhov realized that Sonia rejected him because she is in love with Nikolai, which is her cousin. It kind of ends with Dolokhov, even though he knows that Nikolai doesn't have money, he pushes him and gets him to gamble with him. And I don't know if Dolokhov is cheating in the game or not, but he knows that he's gonna lose all his money. And he does it purposefully in spite because he's upset that Sonia chose Nikolai instead of him. Well, chose, but she didn't really say that that's what she was gonna do, which is kind of sad because Nikolai had a conversation with Sonia and told her, he said, look, that if you rejected him for me, it's not right because I'm not ready to settle down, baby boo-boo. I am young and I am falling in love with a lot of women, and so don't wait for me, is pretty much what he said. This has ended, this leave, and they're on their way to Poland. And that's how this ends. So I'll get back with you with part 2 after I've read it. All right, so now we are at volume 2, part 2. We're focusing a lot on Pierre. We begin with Pierre, and he is just really not in a good place. It seems perfect timing that he gets introduced to the Freemasons. He ends up running into this older gentleman, and he points him in the direction of the Freemasons, and because of him, he becomes an apprentice to become a Freemason. He goes through some of the fraternity-like inductions that you would have to do in order to become a Freemason. It seems that it just really clicks with him, this society. This is the first time that Pierre, he's being surrounded by those that actually care about him, or at least respect him. I feel personally that throughout this entire book, he has just been taken advantage of, and all of these people who are surrounding themselves with Pierre, they're only surrounding him because they want to use him in some way, shape, or form. Tolstoy even says as soon as he gets married, all of these women before that were talking to him, they don't talk to him anymore because now there's nothing he could offer because he's married. And all of these rich people, they're only talking to him in order to get into good relations with him and good standings in case they need something. I think that Pierre has come to the realization that this is actually happening to him and that there are people who are exploiting him. This Freemasonry just seems the complete opposite of that. It seems for him like this secret group of men who support one another. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter if you are rich or poor, if you're a count, if you're not a count, what you did, if you made mistakes in your life or you didn't, they were there to support each other, help the society go in a direction that's more positive than negative, but also in a more religious context too. He's really liking this Freemason idea, and he's doing his best in order to honor it, and to live by their rules and to live by their creeds and to do right. And you see it with his conversations. For example, Prince Vasily comes to his house, the infamous Prince Vasily who used Pierre in order to marry him off to his daughter Helena. He's trying to convince Pierre to go back to Helena, to apologize. It was a mistake, and let's move on from it. Pierre is upset. He's really enraged that Prince Vasily would show up uninvited and have the audacity to try and get him back with his wife. Throughout this conversation, in his head, he keeps on thinking about, how should I act according to the Freemasons? How would they respond? What are the ways in which we need to be in this kind of situation? And so you see him like really taking Freemasonry serious and really trying to live by it. And one of the things he does is he realizes, because of the Freemasons, that Prince Vasily is using him, and he makes this huge decision to kick Prince Vasily out. He doesn't care if he's being rude. He tries to do it in the most non-rude way possible, but he kicks Prince Vasily out and he says, don't come back. I felt very happy for Pierre at this moment, because it was his first step towards understanding the difference between those who were using him and those who are not. I just find it funny because Pierre is one of the only characters that has glasses, and he's the one who can't really seem to see the real intentions of the people around him. And it seems like this is the first time in which he's actually able to see somebody for what they really are. In another area is Anna Pavlovna is having another soiree. So this is like the third soiree of Anna Pavlovna's that we are attending. Pierre this time is not invited. Helena is invited, and everyone who's there is on Helena's side. But not only are they on Helena's side, they are trashing Pierre. Even Anna is saying, I knew it. I knew it was going to work. It was going to turn out this way. I told y'all so. I knew it was going to be like this. Pierre is not a good person. He's too crazy in the head and everything. And so it's really sad, because all of these people who were just so nice to him in his face are now, their true colors are showing out when Pierre's not around and when he made a mistake. Another interesting character throughout this soiree is this Boris Drubetskoy. Sorry if I'm pronouncing all these names wrong. I'm not Russian, but I'm trying. Helena, for some reason, is very intrigued by this Boris. At this moment, the way Tolstoy writes it, it's not really for sure why she's so intrigued by him. She keeps watching him so intently when he talks, and she invites him to his house for dinner and says, you must come tomorrow for dinner to my house. And then he goes to her house for dinner, and she doesn't talk to him at all. And then right when he's about to leave, she's like, you must come tomorrow to my house for something. And again. And so I don't really know what's going on here. I don't know what intentions Helena has with this Boris. Next, we get to this part where Pierre, he goes to Kiev. He has a lot of estates there, and he's doing a tour of his estates. Now that he's the count, he needs to be taking care of them and managing them. And this is his first time really coming to the understanding of what it means to manage them. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of detail. There's a lot of things going on. And he has serfs everywhere. Throughout this tour, he has this idea, a very humanitarian idea, that he really wants to support his serfs better. This book, although it was written in the 19th century, it takes place in 18th century, and this was before serfdom was abolished. He wants to treat them better, and so he has good intentions. While he's visiting all of these estates, he gets toured by one of the serfs. Little does he know that the serfs that he's actually seeing are actually the most richest and highest of the serfs on these estates. And so he has this idea of what kind of life they're living, based off of the one that he's seeing. But unfortunately, he is this one. The ones that he's seeing are really like the 10%. The majority of them live really in poverty. So he doesn't really. He's still, although he wants to try and help them, he's only able to see so much of it because they only want him to see so much of it. And when he comes up with ideas on how to help the serfs and help them have better lives, we can't judge him for coming up with ideas that are not good because he cannot understand. And again, also on this side, you're seeing people who I feel are kind of taking advantage of Pierre's naivety and his lack of knowledge when it comes to his estates. If you're really into the serfdom part of this novel, this is a really interesting section because he goes really more into detail about the serfs. And yeah, after he's leaving his estates in Kiev, Pierre goes and he visits Prince Andrei because he wants to visit him. He hasn't seen him in a while. Prince Andrei is actually in his new estate. He decided to leave Bald Hills because he didn't want to live in the house where his wife died, and he didn't want to live in the house with his father, who has a very strong personality. So he decided to move to the estate called Bogucharovo. I know I pronounced that wrong. He's renovating it, turning it into his own. You just see this whole different Andre, and I love it. He's just really become like a homebody. He wants to take care of his son. He wants to do this estate and think about the estate. And he really is on this idea of like, I'm done with the military. I just want to think about myself. Him and Pierre end up having some really deep conversations during this time. Some about like good versus evil, and just some about like, how are you supposed to live your life? Pierre sees the way Prince Andrei is living, and he kind of wants to help him out because he sees like, okay, Prince Andrei, I can see like you're going in this direction, right? You want to get away from the war. You feel like that was the wrong direction. Andrei is saying, not only do I want to just be done with the military, I'm pretty much done with people. I don't want to deal with people. I just want to be for myself and my family, and that's it. And Pierre trying to convince him, no, that's wrong. How about your neighbor? How about your society? Like, you need to love everyone. They're having these conversations, and I'm just going to read one or two quotes that I found. So they're talking about the duel that Pierre had. Pierre is saying that he's thankful that he didn't kill anybody. And Prince Andrei is saying, well, why? Sometimes it's good to kill people. Here's what was said. Why so? Asked Prince Andrei. It's even very good to kill a vicious dog. No, to kill a man is bad. It's wrong. Why is it wrong? Prince Andrei repeated. It's not given to people to judge what's right or wrong. People have eternally been mistaken and will be mistaken, and in nothing more so than in what they consider right and wrong. And then later on, Pierre and Andrei are talking about this humanitarian idea that Pierre has. He wants to emancipate his, not slaves, almost slaves, his serfs. He's talking about his idea about emancipating them and educating them. Andrei is not on the same page as him. He believes that they're the ones that are the most happy. These serfs, the ones who are not educated, are not intellectual, they spend all day outside laboring, those are the ones that are the most happy. And if we were to educate them and give them a higher standard of life, they're just going to become more depressed, just like all the rest of us who are higher educated and have a higher standard of life. Maybe you haven't seen it, but I've seen good people brought up in this tradition of unlimited power. As they become more irritated over the years, become cruel, coarse, know it, can't help themselves, and become more and more unhappy. So now we get to the end section of part 2, and we're back at the army. Nikolai Rostov, he has rejoined his regiment, and it is just nasty. It's full of hunger, sickness. No one has enough supplies. One of the officers our Denisov decides, after seeing multiple supply transports going by to supply food and water and clothes to somebody down the line, he decides to seize one of them in order to make sure that his men were getting food and clothing and water. Although what he was doing was he was just trying to make sure none of his men died, he almost got court-martialed for it, because he shouldn't have done it in the manner that he did, and he should have just waited. Simultaneously, while all this is happening, he somehow ends up getting a little wound from getting shot at. It's really not that big of a deal, this wound, and it should be something that heals quickly, but he ends up needing to go to the hospital for it anyways. This military hospital, it is disgusting. You go in there and it stinks. It smells so bad. The way that Tolstoy is describing it, it's just horrible. Even the doctors, they, at one point, Nikolai Rostov goes in there and they say, don't come in here. Everyone in here is dead or going to be dead. There is this typhus going around. It's very contagious, and everyone's getting it. It seems that Denisov went into the hospital because of this wound shot, and he's still in there, and it's not getting better because he ends up getting typhus, just like everyone else that's in there. And it's disgusting. Pretty much they've come to the realization that anyone who's inside this hospital is gonna die. It's just another reality of war that is not glamorous. Denisov and Rostov end up having a conversation. You know, they're really great friends, but Denisov is just so sick that he doesn't even seem happy to see Rostov. It seems that Denisov might die. And Denisov decides, I need to tell you something, Rostov. Like, I need to tell you about what happened, that I might get court-martialed because of what I did about getting the troops, the supplies for my men by seizing a supply transport. And he wrote this entire long couple of pages that he wanted to get up the chain of command, he wanted to get it to the sovereign himself, in order to explain like why he did what he did and why he shouldn't be getting court-martialed for it, and how what he did was just. Nikolai promises to try and get this letter to the sovereign. While this happens, there is actually this truce between the Russian and the French. This happened in real life, where the Russians and the French, they met on this like floating dock on a river. They had a truce, and Alexander and Napoleon, they were both emperors. At this point now, everyone was calling Napoleon an emperor. And so you can say Emperor Alexander and Emperor Napoleon met for a truce. History will tell us that this truce will last a couple of years, but we'll get to that later. Nikolai tries to get the letter to the sovereign, and he's not able to talk to him. And the sovereign is very busy with all of this stuff happening with Napoleon, and he's pretty much just says, look, I'm not going to get in the way of the law. And so he's just like, I don't care, let it be. It is what it is. There is one thing that Nikolai said that I would like to share with you guys. We're not diplomatic officials. We're soldiers and nothing more, he went on. We're told to die, and we die. If we're punished, it means we're guilty. It's not for us to judge. If it pleases the sovereign emperor to recognize Bonaparte as emperor and conclude an alliance with him, it means it has to be so. And if we start judging and reasoning about everything, then there will be nothing sacred left. Next, we'll be saying there's no God, no nothing. Our business is to do our duty, to cut and slash, not to think. That's all, he concluded. And to drink, said one of the officers, unwilling to quarrel. Yes, and to drink, Nikolai picked up. Hey, you, another bottle, he shouted. And that's part 2 of volume 2. Hey guys. So, just for reference, I am volume 2, part 3. I just finished. I've read 488 pages. And this is where I'm at. This is what I've read and this is what I have left. Just to give you context on how big this book is. Part 3, it is 1809. It is now 2 years ahead of part 2. Part 2 we finished in 1807 with the treaties of Tilsit. And so there has been, now at this period that we're in, there's been a change in the allies within the war. So now Russia is now allied with France, and we are no longer allied with Austria. This part 3, we're focused a lot on Prince Andrei, and there are no war scenes in this part. I really liked this part. I felt there was a lot of character development. Prince Andrei, it's been 2 years, and he's been going back between his estate and his father's estate. He's starting to get cabin fever. He's getting a bit bored of the country life. Andrei decides that he's going to go into government service because during this time in Russia, there are changes. Things are starting to change. You're starting to see this talk about we need to stop having positions filled with people who have always just in the same family that just keep on getting these positions because their father is somebody. And instead, we need to start having these positions in the government filled with people who are actually educated properly for these positions. And so they're thinking about a lot of reforms within the government, and Prince Andrei wants to be a part of this reformation. We're following Prince Andrei, and there's a scene in which Prince Andrei is in a carriage. He's on his way over to actually visit the Rostov's estate, and the carriage driver happens to just mention small talk that it's looking beautiful outside, everything's renewing. And at first Andrei doesn't understand what he's talking about, and then he realizes, oh, he's talking about the spring and how everything is starting to grow again. Prince Andrei is not really in the mood for seeing beauty in these things, while everyone else around him is so happy because it's spring. He's very disillusioned by it, and he kind of feels as if it's all fake and it's not real, this happiness that comes from the springtime. And he sees all of these ferns and these bushes and the grass that's starting to get these new buds and new leaves, right? However, you notice in the background that there's this huge towering oak tree, and the oak tree is maybe double the size of all the other trees and ferns around, and it's not budding at all. It's old and gnarled and broken and growing in such an ugly way, and it has no leaves. It looks dead. He's kind of like mirroring himself with this oak tree, and he's kind of seeing how, like, look, that it's all a disillusionment, all of this spring and whatever. You guys go ahead, get excited about it, but I'm like this oak tree and it's done for me, and I see past all this and I see through it, and there's no revival here. He ends up getting to Rostov's estate for business. He ends up running into Natasha a couple of times, just seeing her playing and laughing and having a good time. He just notices that she has this lust for life, and she's so energetic and she's so happy. She seems very light. He ends up having to sleep there overnight, and he's not able to sleep for some reason. It's hot, and in the middle of the night, it's like 1 a.m, he gets up and he opens his window just to try to get some air. And when he opens it, he's actually able to hear some voices, and apparently up above, the floor above him, there is Natasha, and she also cannot sleep, and her window is also open, and she's trying to get her sister to wake up, and she's trying to show her sister the moon and the nature and the beauty, and saying, oh, look at the moon right now, look how beautiful it is. You can't sleep right now. It's impossible for you to sleep when there's such beauty in the world. Andrei hears it, he overhears it, and it really affects him. He starts to try and picture the world differently in the way that she's seeing the world. And you notice it too as well when he's leaving, and It's some days later. He ends up passing that same oak tree, and at first he can't find it. And the reason why he wasn't able to see it is because now it's full of leaves. And so this old oak tree, although it was old and it was late to the party, it did end up making new leaves, and it does have a revival. And this is another mirror of him, because he's starting to see that, okay, you know what, I can be like this oak tree too. Even though my wife died, even though I had an unsuccessful career in the military, and I don't know how I feel about this country life right now, there's always revival, and I'm still young. I found this writing very beautiful, Tolstoy's description and this parallelism between Andre and this oak tree. Then we get to Pierre, poor little Pierre. He's just, with the Freemasonry in St. Petersburg, it's not really going as he planned. He's starting to notice that there are a lot of people who are joining the Freemasonry only in order to have connections with really rich people and people with a lot of influence. He ends up talking with one of the elder Freemasons, and he's talking about his life and everything that's happening, and the advice that they give Pierre is, look, I think you need to figure out things in your life right now, and especially with your wife, because you guys separated. It seems that she wants to reconcile with you, because Pierre explains that his mother-in-law has been contacting him a lot lately, begging him to meet with them. And Helena, how she has a change of heart and she really wants to be a good wife to him, and she wants to focus on her husband, and she wants to work things out, kind of holding a grudge. And these older Masons are telling him, this is not right. This goes against our creeds as a Freemason. We are supposed to respect one another and have the ability to forgive. What you're doing, Pierre, is wrong, because we need to move forward, and what you're going through, you need to move forward from it and move on from it. And your take on it is, in order to move on from it, I need to cut off with Helena and with her family and start from zero. And that's not going to fix your problems. And what you need to do instead is to remove yourself from this grudge, and you need to forgive Helena and go back with her and make it work. That is what is going to help you move on. He takes the advice and he decides to move back in with Helena. Helena has changed a lot as a character. Throughout the separation, she was not idle. Although she says that she wants to fix things with her husband, I'm not really sure yet where that's going to go. We haven't yet gotten into her trying to fix anything other than them moving back in together and attending social gatherings together. Helena has been really upping herself in society since she's been by herself. She has been picking out intellectuals and people of really high standards and asking them to come and stay with her at her salon and talk with her. And she's been creating these like salons in which very, very smart people are. She's become very well known in society, and her salons have too, even to the point where the emperor knows of her, and so does Emperor Napoleon. Emperor Napoleon has actually, in this book, mentioned her beauty, and she has become known as this woman of class and of intellectuality. Pierre finds it funny because he knows, because that's his wife, that she's pretty stupid actually. And so he's surprised that everyone has bought this idea that she's this smart intellectual lady. Obviously she is smart to a point, so I see that Pierre could be wrong here, and maybe he just doesn't know his wife enough, because if she wasn't smart, she wouldn't have been able to realize that these salons with these really intellectual and interesting people would get her so high up in society. Near the end of part 3, we get to this New Year's Eve grand ball. It's a big ball because the emperor and the empress is there. Natasha and her family, so the whole Rostov family, is going to be there. It's her first time ever attending a grand ball. Pierre and his wife is going to be there. Prince Andrei is going to be there. A lot of people are going to be there. It's a big party with big names. In this part, we really get a zoomed in view on Natasha. Natasha has always been a character that's been around, but she's kind of always just been this little butterfly of a character. She's just going with the wind. Natasha is now 16 years old. She's a debutante. She's in this very interesting part of life where she's no longer a child and she is making her way into adulthood, but she's not yet there. Tolstoy, I found it beautiful, his writing, when explaining Natasha during this ball, because her reactions as a 16-year-old girl to the situation is so accurate. It reminds me of when I was 16. It reminds me of some of my friends when they were 16. This is just one of those moments in which I have more respect for Tolstoy's writing, because he was able to really depict what it's like to be a 16-year-old girl. It is a big ball. The emperor of Russia is there, and the empress, and there are big people. She doesn't care. She's not even thinking about them. The only thing that she's thinking about is that she wants to dance. She's used to, before this period, where whenever there were parties, she could just dance whenever she wanted to, with whoever she wanted to, and she didn't have to follow these social guidelines and rules of courtesy because she was a child. But now she's a debutante and she has to be more formal and she has to go by the rules. And she cannot just start dancing until someone, a man, asks her to dance. And she's very nervous. She's so nervous that she can't even hide it on her face. It's so obvious in her face how sad she is, because she's scared that she's not gonna get chosen for a dance. No one's gonna see her. And so she's going through these teenager emotions of just like high and low, because she's high, like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to dance and I'm so excited to be here. Low to, or what if nobody picks me? What if nobody notices me? And she's just oscillating and fluctuating, and her 16-year-old emotions are just shining through. Pierre happens to notice that she's really nervous right now, and he decides to ask Andre to go dance with her. He doesn't say why. We don't know why, but he's just like, Andre, I think you should go dance with Natasha. Andre decides to do it. And long story short, after Andre's dancing with Natasha, after this ball, they have some soirees that they attend together. Andre goes and visits the Rostov's house more often, and he talks with Natasha. And then, if you remember from earlier in part 3, he had heard her talking about the beauty of the moon and of the world, and he just falls in love with her free spirit and her way of life, and he falls in love with her. Natasha falls in love with him too, but I don't find that her love for him is as real as Andre's love for her, because Andre, he realizes this too. He even says to her, he says, look, you're really young. You probably don't even really know what love is. And I personally believe this too in Natasha. She says that she loves Prince Andre, but you keep hearing within her mind her talking about, who is this Prince Andre? He's a stranger, and now he's going to be like the biggest thing in my life. And she's so young, and that I don't think that she really knows what it means to be in love, and what is love versus excitement, and love versus something, the idea and the novelty of something new. He says that she loves Andre. Whether she does or she doesn't, I'm on the side that she doesn't really understand what love is. But Prince Andre, I can see that he really does love her, because he loves her way of being, and the way that she sees the world, and the way that she reacts to the world. He asks his father first for his approval to marry Natasha. The old prince is not really fond of the idea, and I think he has good reasoning for it. His reasonings are the Rostov family are infamously known for not having a lot of money. It would not be beneficial for their family to marry into the Rostov family financially. It also is not going to work out. It might not work out because Natasha is so young. She's 16 years old. And Prince Andrei has a son. This would mean that Natasha would become the stepmother of his son. And with Natasha being so young, it's really a gamble as to whether or not she would be a good mother. How can she be a good mother when she's 16? She knows nothing about motherhood. Prince Andrei's father is not about this. He doesn't think it's a good idea, but as he does with Maria, he puts the ball in their court. He just gives conditions. And his condition with Prince Andrei was, you have to wait 1 year. If you can wait and if she can wait 1 year, then I will give you my hand and you can marry her. His idea behind this is that if I give 1 year, if this is all just infatuation, then 1 year will definitely break this off. Also, Natasha will age 1 year, so she will become more of an adult if we can wait 1 year. And on top of that, his health is not good. He knows that he's going to die soon. And so he's kind of thinking, look, maybe I'll be dead by then and it won't be my problem and I won't have to see my son get married off to someone who's below him. He's such a character. And so Prince Andrei proposes. Natasha, she accepts. We finish off this part with Prince Andrei spending it at a spa in Switzerland. That just gives me some Magic Mountain vibes or something. And so that's it for part 3. Y'all, I just read part 4 of volume 2. It resonated in me. And so far, it's the part that has just been the most profound for me. There are 2 things about this part 4 that just blew me away. The first one is just, in general, Leo Tolstoy's description of being in nature. Right now in this part, he's specifically describing a hunt. And so they're out in the estate, in the lands, and they are about to go on a hunt. They have all of their hunting dogs and horses and guns, and they're going out looking for wolves and looking for hare. Anna Karenina, I wanted to just reference it for a second because this is also a book by Leo Tolstoy, and I had the same feeling when reading this book. Whenever there was a description with Lev, and he would go also to his estates and to his lands, and he would work the fields. Leo Tolstoy, I think what he's really the greatest at, which is being able to describe the countryside. And both with Lev inside Anna Karenina and with the Rostovs here during the hunt, they're both aristocratic families, and they're doing something which requires them to kind of mingle more with either it being serfs or with peasants, your average Russian. And I find these descriptions that Leo Tolstoy do just unforgettable. I read this book, Anna Karenina, like 2 years ago, and I still think just about Lev going and using a scythe and cutting the grass with his serfs. Just a scene like that is something that has been one of the most profound things for me in this book, and I just had the same effect here with War and Peace with the hunt. We begin this part 4 with a hunt. The beauty of this scene is just the description. I find also very interesting is that at the end of this hunt, there is a song being played and by a specific person. Tolstoy is describing it and how him playing it, how it's so beautiful because he's just playing it in such a simple way in which there are no undertones, there's no second meaning. It's just He's singing the words as if what the words say is only what the song can mean. And because of that, there's just this sincerity in the way that he's singing it and playing it, that it comes out so beautiful. And I felt that exact same feeling when reading The Hunt, because that's all it was. To me, it was just these scenes of just the dogs and the wolf and the hares and the people going around and searching and waiting, and it was just so beautiful in its simplicity. We get to my favorite part, which is when we get to the uncle's house, and I'm gonna get to that at the end because I think it's the part I want to really focus on. After that, when we get to the end of part 4, it's Christmas time, and long story short, Nikolai decides that he really is 100% in love with Sonia no matter what, and he wants to marry her. Nikolai's mother is trying to convince him to marry this other girl who is very rich, and she's trying to convince him that it's needed because they really are about to go bankrupt. Like they're gonna have to sell their estates and in Moscow, and they're gonna go bankrupt and they're gonna be left with nothing. Nikolai's mother is really thinking about the family in general and the health of the family. Nikolai is not interested, and he's more thinking about love and marrying someone in which he loves. So when he tells his mother that he has decided that he's going to marry Sonia, they're not happy about it, and they have this huge fight. They're not able to come to terms with each other regarding this marriage. It ends with Nikolai going back to his regiment and his mother getting sick because she's just so upset about everything. And it ends with Natasha, who's still just impatiently waiting for Andre to come back. Now, let's just take a step back to the hunt. At the end of the hunt, they're really deep into the forest and into the fields. One of their distant uncles says, "Look, it's really late. We're really close to my house. Why don't we stop at my cabin and let's relax? We could have dinner. We'll call your family to come pick you up." This part actually made me cry. I cried. I watched the interpretation of the movie interpretation by Sergei, and I forgot his last name again, sorry. I cried, and when I read it, I cried. So I honestly need to think deeper into myself and try to understand why this resonated with me so much, but it really affected me. They're at this secondary uncle's house, and he's not an uncle who's in the aristocratic family. He's not in the spotlight like everyone else. He's just like a simple man. What he really likes to do is just go hunting and do that and come back to his cabin and be merry and do a simple life. They're there. It's Natasha, Nikolai, and their younger brother and the uncle. And they're there, they're having dinner. Nothing fancy. They're eating very simple peasant food. You can see also that his help at the cabin, they don't dress like the average aristocratic helper would in Russia at this time. They are dressed like in classical Russian attire. The uncle starts playing music on his guitar for them to enjoy, and he ends up starting to play this Russian folk song, and Natasha is really taken by it and drawn into it, and she loves it. She always has loved music, and she's always been into dancing, and she gets up and he's playing this Russian music. They're eating this Russian food. They're in a cabin that is what the Russia was before it got influenced by Europe so hard. And all of a sudden, Natasha, this girl who was brought up in a French way, in a European way, she's dancing to this Russian music. She never learned these Russian traditions, but it just came to her. She just naturally was swept by the music and instinctively danced it like a Russian would. And it's an amazing moment because it seems that Tolstoy is suggesting this inborn wisdom and this deep connection with your heritage. To me, I saw the beauty with this kind of music and this dancing and the situation that they're in here, which is just so genuine and earthy. And it really just felt for the first time like we were in Russia. This whole book just seems so European the whole time, and artificial and high society, speaking French, acting like you're European. And it really took me. Obviously, I'm not Russian, so my opinion really doesn't matter, and it's very secondary. My opinion is from looking outside in. And since I've been doing my research on Russian history, and I heard about Peter the Great and his push for the people to become more European, I personally was sad about it, because I saw all of this culture, this Russian Slavic culture that was more Eastern, just being murdered because he wanted them to be like their other neighbors and grow in that direction. And you just see this like loss of this culture, and it resonated with me so hard, this scene, when you see that little light of this Russian culture, this true Russian culture that's still alive, and how Tolstoy is so ingenious that he was able to instill and make you feel that genuine beauty and that genuine happiness there. And I can feel it. I can feel the difference in the happiness between these soirees, right? And then this little dinner in a cabin. Maybe it's because this is not a story only to Russia. It's a story that has happened to many cultures, many places, during many times. But I absolutely got destroyed by this part of the book. So I'm going to go ahead and start part 5. Ugh. Part 5, volume 2. What nasty and vileness. This entire part is mainly about Natasha. I feel sorry for her. I feel disgusted by her, and I just want to slap her and be like, girl, what the hell's wrong with you? At the same time, I'm just able to also understand her, because she's a 16-year-old girl, and she really doesn't know much about the world and about love. And she's been put in these situations in which she doesn't understand. This whole part takes place in Moscow. We're mainly following the Rostov family, specifically Natasha. We're also following Helena and her brother Anatole and his friend Denisov. These are all characters that we've heard about before in the past. Natasha is having a hard time because she's still not with Prince Andrei. It's almost been the whole year of waiting, and she's expecting Prince Andrei to come back anytime. She's going through a hard time because they went to Moscow and they decided to go visit Prince Andrei's family, and it didn't go well. Natasha is very naive. She still doesn't understand all of the social norms. She's expecting that when she goes to visit Prince Andrei's father and sister, that they're just going to automatically love her because everybody loves her. The complete opposite happens. The prince, the older prince, doesn't even want to meet her. Princess Maria decides to meet her, but she doesn't know what to say, and it's just all awkward. Natasha is just going, this 16-year-old girl, first of all, already has to wait 1 whole year before she can marry her fiance. And then when she meets the family without the fiance there, nothing goes right. They don't even seem to like her. She's completely just like, what the heck's going on? And while this happens, she ends up going around Moscow, and she runs into Helena. and not only Helena, but Helena's brother, Anatole. Both of them are really bad influences on her, but she has no idea. Helena is kind of holding grudges against her, which Natasha doesn't even know, because back in the day when Helena was trying to get Boris to attend her salons, Boris was in love with Natasha and stopped going to Helena's salons in order to hang out with Natasha. Helena is kind of on this, like, I kind of want to get back at her. And she notices that Anatole, her brother, is like so infatuated with her, which isn't really something new, because Anatole is infatuated with any beautiful woman. If you remember earlier, Anatole was the one who had proposed to Princess Maria, but while he was waiting for Princess Maria to respond, he was getting on with her helper, her French helper. Helena takes this opportunity in which she sees this like lust in Anatole towards Natasha in order to get back at her. And so she kind of helps her brother get with Natasha. Anatole is just a player. She doesn't understand, but she can feel it, that when Anatole looks at her, he's looking at her in this way in which most people within a good society do not look at women. He's not caring about respecting her. Like, he's looking at her with lust. And she understands that he's looking at her differently than how he's supposed to. But she doesn't understand the meaning behind it. And she just sees it as very wild and exciting. Long story short, Anatole is secretly writing her messages, secretly finding ways to be alone with her. And he ends up kissing her and just expressing to her how much he loves her. He's saying that he loves her and he wants to be with her, right? The problem here is that Anatole is used to being around people like his sister Helena and around people who are in that circle who understand what's happening and understand the difference between lust and love. Natasha is a 16-year-old girl. She doesn't understand. And so as soon as this happens, she all of a sudden becomes in love with Anatole. And now she's going through this thing in her head where she's in love with both Prince Andrei and Anatole. The difference is that Prince Andrei is not there and is making her wait. And Anatole doesn't want to wait, and he's there. I wish I was there for her. Unfortunately, even her mom is not there for her because her mom is sick, right? Because she went through all of that stuff with her brother, with Natasha's brother. And so she stayed home in St. Petersburg and she's not there. And at this moment, it's noted in the book, but it's obvious that Natasha needs an older woman there to guide her. And she doesn't have anybody. And I feel for her. I really, really feel for her because she's going through these emotions that she doesn't understand. She thinks that the feelings that she has for Anatole are equivalent to the feelings that she has for Prince Andrei. And she sees Anatole, who's wanting to move for it fast and be with her, as like real love, which is with Prince Andrei, who's like, you need to wait. She's getting over that. She doesn't want to wait. Sonia notices and she ends up finding one of the letters by accident. And she confronts her and she's like, does this not seem wrong to you? Anatole, why is he doing everything in secret? Why doesn't he just come to the front door and meet you and meet the family and do everything in the proper way as society does it? And Natasha at this moment, her ears are just off. She doesn't want to hear it. She's just like, Sonia, you're either with me or you're against me. And so at this point, Natasha is just like not listening to any good reasoning. And she's thinking in her head, whatever his reasons for not doing this normal and for doing everything secretly, there must be a good reason behind it. I know he loves me. You don't understand. You can't understand these feelings that we have. It's so deep. But little does she know, as a 16-year-old girl, that actually everybody does understand. These feelings that she has, they're just natural instincts as a human, as an animal. They're animal instincts. She doesn't understand that. And she thinks that what she's feeling is unique and different. Me now as like a 34-year-old woman, I'm like, girl, you don't even know. I can think back into when I was 16 years old, and I've had experience similar to hers, and how it can be confusing at that age. And so like I said, I'm reading this part and I just want to slap her silly, but at the same time, I just want to give her a hug and be like, look, you're going to get older and you're going to understand better. Just come on, let's get through it. They end up deciding together, Anatole and Natasha, to elope. They decide to do it secretly. And stupid Denisov is always showing up trying to ruin things. I hate this guy. He's trying to help Anatole too. And so they're all like, all of these really shady bad characters, Helena, Denisov, Anatole, they're all doing all this stupid stuff just in order to have fun. They're not thinking about the consequences. Maybe Helena is thinking about the consequences, but she likes it. She likes the idea of creating this havoc and this ruin. It's just sad because everyone finds it as just fun and games. Anatole is actually married already, and he's trying to marry Natasha. It's like not even legal what he's doing. This whole thing is just absolutely absurd. They try to elope. Sonia finds out, and so does the woman in the house that they're staying at, and they're able to stop it. But it doesn't help because Natasha is just so upset. She finds out through Pierre that Anatole is actually already married to some Polish girl, actually, and she tries to kill herself. She ends up taking poison, and she tries to commit suicide. At the moment, she is still sick from the suicide attempt, but hopefully she's going to be getting better. Prince Andrei, he has returned and he has been notified of everything that's happened. And in the midst of all this happening, Natasha sent a letter to the family saying that she refuses his offer of hand in marriage. It's just a mess. And unfortunately, Pierre is kind of in the middle of it. He doesn't want Prince Andrei to get hurt, and so he's trying to fix this issue with Anatole, his brother-in-law. He comes up to Anatole and he threatens him, and he tells him, you need to leave St. Petersburg now, Moscow now, and you need to never come back and never talk to Natasha again, and you need to act as if all of this stuff never happened. If somebody asks you if this is what happened, you need to deny it, because he doesn't want it to ruin Natasha's standing in the case that Prince Andrei decides to stay with her. And so he's trying to fix everything. He ends up talking with Prince Andrei, and Prince Andrei is upset, but he's older, and he kind of knew that there was a very high chance of this happening, and he was ready for it. And so he's kind of already just like, it's done, it's over, he's upset, but he's gonna move on. And unfortunately, Natasha doesn't. She understands too that it's not gonna happen with her and Prince Andrei, but she wants to apologize to him, and she's asking Pierre to do it for her. And that's how we finish off this part 5, and that's also how we finish volume 2. In general, I have to say volume 2 I really loved. I haven't finished the book, so I don't know how volume 3 and 4 and the epilogue are going to be. But so far, between volume 1 and 2, I really am enjoying the book. Part 2 I liked better, I think, because we delved more deeper into the characters, and we got a little bit farther away from the wars. I'm excited to get to the points in which Tolstoy backs off from the story and he comes to us directly as the reader to discuss, but I have not yet gotten to any of those points. I made it to the 600-page mark, so I'm almost at the halfway mark, pretty much there. I'm very happy with reading this book, and I hope that you guys are enjoying my commentary and summary. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And I'll get to you guys in the next video with volume 3.